friends, I am Vitaly Portnikov. French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian stated the readiness to send troops to Greenland in case Denmark faces a threat related to the United States claims on that territory. There was a statement from the French Foreign Minister. Danish PM Mette Frederiksen visited Berlin, Paris, Brussels, meeting Olaf Scholz, Emmanuel Macron, Jens Stoltenberg. The head of the Danish government visited Berlin, Paris, and Brussels, meeting with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, French President Emmanuel Macron, and NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. The visit took place after the Danish Prime Minister had a talk with President Donald Trump, who claimed about Greenland aggressively. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, and the new head of the American state have expressed their claims regarding Greenland in a very aggressive manner. Trump still refuses to understand that Denmark shares sovereignty over Greenland. Trump still doesn't want to understand that Denmark shares sovereignty over Greenland. And the island is part of allied relations with Denmark, not that Greenlanders prefer Denmark or independence over the US. Join the United States and are more likely to choose between a union with Denmark and their own independence. According to the latest opinion polls, 85% of Greenland's residents are against this island nation, which is in a union with Denmark, being in any way joined to the United States. Island nation that is in a union with Denmark, being in any way, thus it is joined to the United States. And this is despite Donald Trump Jr.'s trip. The Danish Prime Minister's visit demonstrates European and Atlantic solidarity. They were creating a backdrop for the Greenlanders' desire to join the United States. The Danish Prime Minister's visit to Paris, Berlin, and Brussels is also a demonstration of pan-European and Euro-Atlantic solidarity in relation to a small country that cannot defend itself, and at the same time, without a doubt, it's a real foreign policy disaster for the West. Because right now, Denmark is looking to NATO, France, and Germany for protection from the United States. So indeed, from that very country that, in theory, should be the guarantor of sovereignty. The territorial integrity and security of NATO member countries. But it seems that after Donald Trump's secondary victory in the presidential elections in the United States, things are far from straightforward, as my colleague Trump would say in Moscow, Vladimir Putin, which relates to the problems of small countries with about the same grace that Donald Trump himself shows towards them. However, Donald Trump is not an ally of Vladimir Putin, even if certain actions of the Russian president evoke his understanding. Trump is actually an ally of Mette Frederiksen, Emmanuel Macron, and Olaf Scholz. And the very fact that the Prime Minister of Denmark has to discuss with the President of France and the Federal Chancellor of Germany how to protect the sovereignty of their country should make the new American president and officials in Washington think about the consequences, if not actions, then statements, then the French Foreign Minister. We don't think the US would occupy Greenland, that the United States will actually go ahead with the occupation of Greenland, because we understand perfectly well American soldiers land and declare Greenland now part of the United States. This would be a real occupation in the Russian style. In the West, there are still hopes that Donald Trump, with his statements about buying Greenland, is just trying to gain a stronger negotiating position regarding American interests in the region. In relation to American interests in the region, interests exist without strengthening the military positions of the United States in Greenland. It means a future strengthening of the military positions of China and Russia. Greenland, then this will automatically mean in the future a strengthening of the military positions of China and Russia. However, there is again a discrepancy here. There is no problem for the United States to strengthen its military presence in Greenland. All it takes is negotiations between Washington and Copenhagen, involving representatives from science. Necessary? A general agreement that would allow for the strengthening of the American military presence. There is also an alternative political path that talks about the possibility of proclaiming Greenland's independence, which has long been sought on the island but has not been proclaimed. First of all, due to the financial interest in supporting Denmark, if the United States is willing to establish a mutually beneficial military and economic alliance with an independent Greenland, then Washington's position could be strengthened on the island. Without any threats or issues, the presence on the island can be strengthened. Without any threats or issues, Trump takes a different path. He's going a completely different way, both in domestic politics and in foreign affairs. Internally, the new American president is deliberately breaking American laws. He's just trying to understand how far he can go in his capabilities as the head of the American state. And in foreign policy, Trump is exploring breaking international law. He starts not with the rivals of the United States. In the spirit of Putin, he begins this difficult situation not with the rivals of the United States, whom he wants to talk and to whom he is ready to fly in the first 100 days of his presidency, with whom he wants to talk and to whom he is ready to fly in the very first 100 days of his presidency, like his desire to visit Beijing and talk with Xi Jinping or urgently meet with Putin. He starts this check specifically with the allies of the United States to urgently meet with Putin. He starts this check specifically with the allies of the United States. So, with countries whose leaders were actually ready to meet Washington halfway during the previous administration and are still willing to do so now. And it is precisely this attitude of the new American president towards the United States allied commitments that can be said to undermine the entire world order. In the democratic world, because the very idea that French troops will be forced to go to Greenland to protect the island's residents and Denmark's interests from American troops is a disaster. To protect the island's residents and Denmark's interests from American troops, it's a disaster. You could say it's on a planetary scale. Thank you, friends. Stay tuned to this channel, subscribe to my social networks, Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, and Donatello channels, which help develop these resources. Enjoy. The sponsorship feature on YouTube